Don't overthink it. Just relax. Let him see the man underneath.
You know, I've been asking myself what possible wisdom I can impart to the bright young minds of tomorrow. Be anyone you want to be. Figure out what you believe in. Makes you righteous, angry.
I believe in you, Sam.
Get to the core of who you really are.
You just cultivate that clean image.
Nigel, my mother taught me from an early age to fight for justice, protect those who are vulnerable.
This is what we're selling: confidence, hope, optimism.
Your mythology is your best asset.
Be honest about your weaknesses. But capitalize on your strengths. Because really, you can only be you. Be you. Whoever that is. Thank you.
He's very, very good at what he does. Fooling everyone.
The right man for the job, then.
Everyone's got a dark side you don't normally get to see.
There's 2 FBI agents that want to speak to you. Whatever mess you're in, you need to take yourself out of it now.
People are gonna know what you really are.
I'd be careful here. Sounds like you're fishing.
You'll write the story.
This is about you protecting your ticket to the top. Sam, about your zipper problem. People want to believe that you're somehow better than they are.
This is a black and white issue.
They need that fairy tale.
I set out to help people. I never said I was better than them.
Everybody's just waiting for you to win this.
Sam.
Do whatever you need to do to make it happen.
This is the perfect time to get used to surprises.
What did you do?
Remember all the goals we set for ourselves. Let's not throw that away.
People still need heroes.
Let's give him one.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the film. So we have a political candidate running and caught in the midst of a sex scandal. This has to be a cliche question for you, but who's this about?
About all of them and about specifically this guy. I think both Patrick and I wanted to approach it from a place of empathy and not judgment, so it's very much like trying to make Sam Ellis a real person.
Yeah, and I mean, there's plenty to choose from.
Specifically with Southern accents.
Well, you know, that was a change that came really just based on location, because it was set, where was it D.C. or Connecticut at some point?
Yeah, originally New York and Connecticut.
Right. And so once we put it in the South, then you felt like you really needed to go with that. And then so, of course, as soon as you do a Southern accent, then everybody's thinking it's specifically a Southern politician, which it's not. I mean, I think what we wanted to achieve by the film was that it's a very specific story just to him. You know, so if you see these little steps that lead him down this horrible path, but when you start from just a very small, he crosses the line just a little. That way, at least, whether you like him or don't like him doesn't even matter. But I think there's a lot of humanity in the film, so where you can at least care about him or care about his struggle.
There's always that fear, once you open that door, you're never going to be able to shut it, which is essentially what happens to this character, right? I think it's every man in a marriage's fear. It's like, I will never cheat because I'm just not going to open that door. Because once I lie, I don't know if I'll ever stop lying. Well, we see with this character, that's really what happens to him, right?
Yes, just how easy it is to just fall into, once the crack in the sidewalk opens, how easy it is to fall down it. And that was sort of the, wanting to look at the very beginning origin story of where could this have all started, and approaching it from a place of, I try to imagine myself in every character that I write, no matter how far off, and the more far off it is from where I am to start with, the more interesting it is to get into the psychology of what was he doing when it first started. And so that was sort of the idea with Sam of, looking at it. He has this history of alcoholism in his family, but he's always been repressing it, always being a good boy, and he has this little porn compulsion and little seeds for him to go that way, but then we see him unravel.
Patrick, what interested you in playing this character, playing a kind of, He's not as much of an alpha male as we expect from people running for office, but he is a sort of dominant figure. He's a power player, and part of this thing behind the eyes seems to be a part of that as well. What captivated you about that?
Well, I think the things that it's equally exciting and repulsive about these situations. You're always sort of fascinated. I'm fascinated by a politician who goes, I'm fascinated by anybody who does that, but really when you look, and part of what the movie says, why do we put these people on a pedestal just so we can rip them down? I mean, that's exciting to play because he's a prosecutor, he is definitely in charge, and he's a very driven, aggressive guy. And I think these little seeds of addiction and compulsion that he has, I'm not like that. So, I can get up from a poker table even if you lose a couple $100 and not feel like I got to stay and win it back. Like
I got to lose everything.
It's okay. Yeah, so I don't have that personality, so I'm fascinated by people who do. And it scared me. I mean, I read a script, and I think this is something either that I've done before or that I haven't. And with this, I think it pushed me in a lot of ways. And there were some days on this show that I felt, and I've told more of this, that were the hardest days, the most difficult days of shooting that I've ever had. So,
like what had happened? What was the scene?
The scene in the car, the scene where he's just crumbling. He's just the most desperate and sort of raw, just open wound that he is throughout the whole film. And it's very, look, I've done a lot of love scenes. I've been naked several times.
Sort of.
I have. I mean, it is what it is. But this was a different beast because when you're dealing with somebody who's it's a very, very dark path that he's going down. And so ultimately, the train's gonna crash. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna catch up to you at some point. I think that's the humanity with him, is he's not just pushing under the rug and I'm gonna go to, sex addiction therapy and I'll be fine. It's not that at all. It's a very slippery slope. So it was just a specific scene where where he just sort of implodes. And it's why you do it.
With the escort, right? And the sort of desperate act for connection a little bit at that moment with her.
Exactly. And then, of course, by the end of it, he's giving her money and wants to have another romp in the front seat. And it's just horrible. And so I'm you don't walk away going, wow, that was a really fun day at work. But I know I walked away feeling like, I remember just saying, like, did we get it? Or you got it? Because it's, that's ultimately why you do it. You want that sort of satisfaction with feeling like, okay, I went there with him. So that's kind of one of the reasons I did it.
Did you worry that setting this in the political world or having this a story of addiction, specifically sex addiction, be about a politician? Sometimes people wouldn't be able to focus enough on the addiction, or because this character itself, it's not necessarily his politics or his beliefs or his role that make him an addict. He has an addict, and he happens to be in this field where people put him on a pedestal. It could be a celebrity of some kind. It could be another public role, right?
Well, I wanted to work on both levels, to be exploring that issue of why do politicians do this and why do we keep putting them on this pedestal and are continually shocked. I mean, over the course of writing the story and making it, there is a new scandal every month and a new career that was wrecked in a moment over something like this. And post-Clinton, everyone is warned that what the stakes are and why do they still do it. But very much also wanted to work on the science of addiction as well. And for, I've had recovering alcoholics and addicts watch the movie and relate to it on those terms as well. So, wanting to look at the early stages. But in terms of us talking about it, Sam is very much in his early stages of addiction, so he's not aware.
We never even talk about it.
He's not aware of it.
We never even mention sex addiction, any of it. It's never mentioned in the film. I think it's too early. It's too, and I think a lot of times, how many times do we hear, he's in therapy or rehab or I don't mean to make light of it, but for sex addiction, without already having found out, oh, by the way, last week he was caught by his wife. I mean, it's usually, sadly, I think a lot of times that kind of thing comes out of, I was caught, I've been shamed, how do I build it back up? And I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm kind of clueless when it comes to that kind of rehab, but we were very careful in not saying, he's a sex addict, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's
He's never labeled, nor is he sent
Yeah.
back to therapy or not back to, but sent to therapy or
Right.
rehab at all. It's definitely something. And what it seems like you're saying is it's kind of that it could come out later, but it'll be kept in the family for a very long time until someone finally says, I can't keep this secret anymore. We're gonna go public with this.
Well, it's like I'm sure there are tons and tons of men and women that have lots and lots of affairs. Now, some people may think they're a sex addict. Some people may just think they're a horrible person who has no moral standards. So, that's the fun thing of why you do movies, to at least raise some questions, and different people are going to have different reactions. That's cool. If you can do that, you've made a good movie.
You said it. You've done a lot of love scenes. You've done a lot of sex scenes. When you get a script like this, do you think to yourself, do you get nervous about sex scenes still?
Back on the horse.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Is there a part of you that feels that way a little bit?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't. I don't know anybody who really does. I think people that say, "Oh, come on, it's gonna be so much fun." They obviously never have done it. It's a very strange. It's very weird. I mean, I would say that anytime the most graphic ones that I've done in films have all been really paramount to telling the story. I mean, in this, which I thought was wonderful, coming from Mora, coming from a woman writing this stuff and a woman shooting it, it probably takes maybe a different tone. And I think that's because, look, when you're shooting it, it's madness. That day in the hotel is very strange. I mean, you're getting, how many women were there? A lot. We didn't even get to all of them.
Because you have a kind of...
There was one day where we had 6 escorts.
6 escorts.
You have a kind of montage of going through
your
women.
montage. Now you're shooting that, and that's a very strange day. You try to make light of it, but we were also very specific, right? You can talk about that, but about what you wanted to shoot.
Hi, I'm Patrick. So just like right here.
No, it basically was that. Hi, Patrick. This is my penis. Not really. It was never seen.
I call him Pepper. It's like.
And it was also a different process because there's a number of escorts that you only see in those scenes, and then there's also actresses like Alexandra Breckenridge and Penelope Mitchell and Lena Headey plays his wife. Yeah. Those sex scenes are also handled in a different way because they're also part of a much bigger emotional scene. So they present their own challenges, and I would say that I hadn't done anything like that before, and it was amazing to have Patrick as a partner through it because he's such a gentleman, and it is all about choreography and having a sense of humor and making sure everyone's comfortable. And I want my sets to always feel like kind of intimate and safe. And
did you create like a closed set environment for some of these things? Like, I mean, how does that work with the crew? Does the crew get tense as well? Is everybody kind of sort of working through it?
Everybody kind of knows the drill. I mean, you get to know your cameraman pretty well. Remy knows me quite well. I mean, what do we have in there? An operator and boom guy, and yeah.
I love some of Richard Dreyfuss is just so awesome. Was that something, were you excited to do a scene with Richard Dreyfuss?
I mean, forget it. It's unbelievable.
Because he doesn't do that much these days. He's not like doing 5-6 movies a year or anything.
Right.
It must be a treat to know that you're going to be doing a scene with him.
I mean, absolute treat. I mean, when you said you got him, that was, for me, I think like most people sort of our generation, when you talk about Jaws and Close Encounters, those movies that just blew me away. And what's funny is the first day that he was there, he had a ton of dialogue. And I actually wondered how that was going to cut together because he did different stuff on every take. All brilliant, but was that a huge issue at all? I always wondered that.
No, it was great. And my husband, who co-wrote the script with me, also edited it, Joel Vertel. And I mean, Richard he's such a great storyteller, and he knows so much about history and politics, and has great opinions about the issues of the movie, about people with zipper problems as well. And it was so much fun. I mean, from the moment he started,
he just lights it up. That laugh is just legendary. It's great.
And when we were all at Sundance together too, it was the first time Richard had ever been to Sundance, and the way the movie works, it's so much inside Patrick's skin that a number of the scenes are only with one other actor. So Sundance was the first time everyone got to actually meet each other, and it was like a big class reunion. And then everyone was like listening to Richard's stories, which are amazing. And
so he was doing different stuff in every take. Like, is he improvising? Because he has some amazing lines. I imagine Zipper was in the script initially.
yes.
Yeah. Was that a real? Is that a real name for it? I've never heard that before.
Well, it was in research. I came across it. It was coined under the Clinton scandal as a politician who has a zipper problem, and I thought it was a great way to talk about the political sex scandal and that particular issue.
Patrick, did you do any research into politicians or talk to anybody or addiction specialists or anything like that, or did you kind of?
A few people, yeah. I got on the phone with a few people who were super helpful. Again, we wanted to craft it sort of. I thought, I've been attached to the script for quite a while, and
how long, if you don't mind me asking?
3 years, 4 years.
I just always find it fascinating how long it takes to actually get a film made these days.
Yeah, and I will say, usually I've been attached to movies before, and after about year 3, year 4, they just don't happen. I mean, but this was one of those movies that we always believed in the script, and luckily the people around me believed in it as well, which is something that doesn't always happen. You may love it, and then an agent or a manager may think, well, there's this other thing, and but this always kept coming back as we got to find time for Zipper. We got to make it, because I knew it was just one of those roles that both was kind of in my wheelhouse of the good guy gone bad, but also really pushing me, which is what I kind of always, what I go for.
Do you go for that a lot? Do you find is it hard to find those roles that are in your wheelhouse, but also do push you a little bit?
I think at this point, I've got enough sort of, it's so hard to talk about yourself in third person. I've got enough sort of out there that usually, you'll get sort of different, you'll do a couple horror movies, then you'll keep getting offers for horror movies. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I've done a couple and they've worked. So it usually takes somebody that either sees a skill set that you have or maybe that hasn't been used a lot yet,
Is that something like, you get a bunch of offers for horror movies because you did The Conjuring and it worked out really well, right?
Yeah.
And then someone doesn't realize that you're not just doing horror movies. That was like a good idea, a good director, a good producer, and that's why you jumped on that project, right? Is that kind of the thing? But they're like, no, you love horror movies.
Right. Yeah. Or I get the lot of, you do nothing but horror movies. It's like, and I say, well, it's about 3 out of 40, but I'm glad those are the ones that you've seen.
A lot of movies.
I don't know. I mean, I think, look, people are very short-sighted, so you do a couple horror movies and they think, okay, well, I've got a horror movie idea because it works with it, But I've learned that the more you push yourself, then, I'm constantly just, I guess like anybody, you constantly want to push yourself as much as the system will allow you. And then you can go off and, I remember meeting Joe Carnahan, and we just sort of came up with this crazy idea for the character, he did really, for A-Team, but we had such a great time, and over the years, he's always said, I want to find something for you, we got to find something cool, and so we go off and do Stretch, which I love doing, and, it's usually, for me, it's a very personal touch, if that makes sense.
Does it not work for you if it's not a personal touch? Have you had instances where, because this film seems like it's incredibly personal for you, like 3 or 4 years. Have you had the instances where it wasn't that personal? And
oh yeah, I feel like I'm talking a lot. Yeah, I was attached to a movie for I will not name names.
Of course.
I will be very respectful, even though it was not treated with respect. But I was attached to a movie for what I thought were several years, and then I see a press release with someone else involved, and I was even on board as a producer. Not on paper, nothing was written down. I'm a handshake and a smile kind of guy. I try to believe that, live by those words. You say it, you mean it, and it is what it is. But the movie I was even in the room when we hired the director, and they went another way, and I just was never told, because it's that Hollywood sort of, it's that side, not even Hollywood, it's that side of business where people love to sort of cower and not have to deal with you on a personal level. So that was really only one instance, I think, but usually, I just, usually it's worked out.
Hopefully that movie tanked.
It hasn't come out yet.
Hopefully it tanks. I think we have some time for audience questions. Does anyone have questions here in the audience? Here in the front, or right there?
Hi, so Zipper is obviously controversial. I wanted to know about, can you walk us through the writing process? Was it a different idea and then it had to evolve, or did you have this initial idea in the beginning?
It was very much the initial idea, and as I mentioned, I co-wrote it with my husband, Joel Vertel. And it started from wanting to look at the political sex scandal, but from a place of curiosity and empathy of where could somebody have gone that far down the path, and it evolved over time. We started working with Darren Aronofsky and Mark Heyman at Protozoa Pictures, and we developed the script for about a year with them.
Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like?
It was amazing. Darren is one of my all-time heroes, so it was a great opportunity to work with him, and they also kind of supported the dark, going to the darkest part of the story.
I bet he did. Yeah.
And staying there, and just had, it takes a long time, but it also takes a whole village of people supporting you along the way. And they were tremendous, both in terms of cast and then again when we were in post.
Really? Next question.
Hi there. This question is for Patrick. I noticed that some of your family, brother and father specifically, are the news anchorman side of the camera world. Was that ever a potential route for you, or is that something that you ever got in? Or
No, my dad just retired after 50 years of being an anchor. He retired in Tampa. My brother took his place, so I think there are enough Wilsons to to be on the news. Yeah.
Where were they anchors, if you don't mind?
In Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, Fox 13 in Tampa.
Wow.
Mark Wilson.
What's that?
Mark Wilson. Every night.
Did you do an impression of him growing up? Could you do his...
Of my dad?
Yeah.
No, my dad's like the best guy in the world. I feel like if I did any impression, it would not do it justice.
Even as an anchor? I feel like everybody does
well,
impressions.
I can't do his voice. You have to understand, my dad came from this place called Big Stone Gap, which is a movie I have coming out, in the little coal mining town of Virginia. So when he was little, he always had this crazy accent, and when he wanted to become an anchor man, he talked into a little tape recorder and literally got rid of his own accent. So then he now is this great booming television voice. But as a kid, he literally just like wanted to be David Brinkley.
Does he ever snap back into that southern accent, like after a couple cocktails?
When we go to the mountains, he does. Everybody still calls him Johnny. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's great.
This question is for Mora. What did you feel was the biggest struggle that you had during the writing process, and how all this writing process is going to help you for future upcoming films in the future, as it is?
Well, the biggest challenge was I wanted to make it feel as real as possible, so there was a lot of research in different areas. I spent time with assistant U.S. attorneys in L.A. to get the sort of lawyer, because Patrick's character actually as a federal prosecutor is about to run for office. So to understand all of that world, and to understand the Politico side. And we worked with the woman who plays Mona, the booker in the movie, actually was a booker for an escort agency in New York, so understanding the whole escort side of it as well. And it was really fun doing those. We recorded those scenes live.
That scene was actually me. There's a scene where the first time that I make the call to the escort agency. It was
outside the store, right?
That's outside the store, and that's a real conversation, which doesn't usually happen. It's usually somebody else reading your lines off camera. But that was a real conversation. She was really used to run an escort agency, and I had never met her before, so it was literally like, okay, here you go. So it was very, sort of strange and titillating and scary to see how easy it was, all you people. Yeah.
And she also worked with Alexander Breckenridge and Penelope Mitchell to sort of answer their questions as well. And then also all of the fun part was reading all of the political sex scandal research that came out one after another. So there was a lot of research kind of going into it.
Next question.
So we kind of see, hi guys, we kind of see this movie talking about, I guess, somebody trying to project the most positive perspective of their personality and then diving and drowning in the worst possible aspects of their personality. So how does that play out when you were sort of writing it and deciding, is man innately good or is he evil? So how does that organically play into how we are supposed to walk away from this film feeling?
Well, I very much wanted everyone, the ideal situation would be people go see the movie in the audience and then they have a very different emotional reaction to the end or how, why it is that he's doing this, and then they go and go out to a bar and talk about it with their friends. And, one of the things that got me going about this story was about how men and women were viewing these scandals differently. So I became fascinated by that. And I think in feedback from audiences, from women who've seen the movie, that they tend to view it more as a mystery. Like men watch it as a general thing, but they watch it as Sam, whereas women are like, I know somebody like that, and they want to kind of so they're picking up on all the clues within the mystery. But that was very much also about why it was escorts and not a mistress, is that I wanted it to be about this guy battling himself and not it being like some kind of triangle love story, but about he is the hero and the villain in the story, and that the whole story is him wrestling this part of himself.
It's interesting what you said about women sort of finding it a mystery. I think people would assume that women come from a judgmental place about it and men come from an empathizing place about it. But I'd imagine it's a little bit different. What did you find when you did research about how men and women reacted differently to real life scandals?
Well, I think in watching the movie that there, because I think also the fact that it's a woman's point of view on the story, I think opens up a door for women to be able to watch the movie and see it and see Sam as a mystery where they might know somebody like, and Patrick makes it so appealing that they're like, I know somebody like that, and they might kind of understand more than they would if it was just a newspaper headline. Do you know what I mean? So that I think their experience of watching Patrick in this role is different than how they might feel about, Elliot Spitzer or some other politician.
Absolutely. I think that is all the time that we have, guys. Thanks so much for being here. How can people see the movie?
Thank you. What?
How can people see the movie?
It opens in theaters August 28th,
Yep.
and it'll be also on demand. Alchemy is releasing it.
Guys, the movie opens August 28th, and it's on demand. Check it out. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks, you guys.